Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are glad to have you here as we prepare for a night of Science Bob and friends without Science Bob. I talked to Bob 3 hours ago. I woke him up. I think he fell back asleep, to be blunt. But it's okay. We got a show to do and we're going to do a show, damn it. What the hell? That's what we do around here because I don't get time for breaks. All right, Eternity Eternal in the gold medal position. Kitty Caddywhack with a silver. Necessary Dialogue in the bronze medal position. Let's fire it up, shall we? Let's do this. Let's have some fun. Scroll on down. Race Fan, how you doing, buddy? Mel WD40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because Mel forgot to lube up Science Bob. So Science Bob became Sleepy Bob, and we're blaming this one on Mel. Yeah, Mel did not lube Bob up before the show, so Science Bob just fell back asleep. Mel, don't forget to give yourself a shot. We don't need any more heart problems, if you know what I mean. Robert Lamoth, JSCO, how you doing? Mama Catherine, there she is. Mwah. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I hope you had a great day, and I hope you enjoyed tonight. Let's move on. Frankie B, how are you? Morwick is here. Morwick will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. John Allen, Missouri Man, and John Jackson. How you guys doing tonight? Thank you for coming on in. Skip to Malou, good morning to you. Luscious Jules, how are you? Trucker Andrew and Cosmic Joe, how you guys doing tonight? As we continue on with our roll call. Hi there, Jaquetta. How are you? Where are we? T-Bone, my man. What's happening, my friend? Good to see you. And who else do we have here? We scroll on down. Mark SRT Wolf. How you doing? And who else? Who else is here? Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Shane Gord, how are you? Necessary Dialogue, nice to see you tonight. As we continue on with our roll call, Flubber Lane and Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, good to have you both here. And who else do we have here? Well, let's take a look. We got to scroll down a little bit here. We do. It's Chris Irvin. How you doing? Glenn John McEnroe is here, the pride of Wimbledon. Nice to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, what in tarnation? How you doing? Pam Harris, thank you for coming on in. Tim Mothman and his goatee are here. Tim Mothman and his goatee will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Tim's goatee literally says, I will not sign unless I'm paid $5 a signature. Tim will do it for free, but the goatee will not. So you got some choices to make there. Edwin, how you doing? Road Flare, nice to see you. As we scroll on down on our roll call, Lisa Smith, thanks for coming on in. And JSCO again, Kurt M., how are you? And who else do we have here? What else do we have? Jeff Steve Garvey is here. He'll hit a home run for you. Number 35 in your program tonight, starting in goal from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Sweet Donna C., how are you tonight? Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to get into some UFO action here as we prepare for Science Bob and Friends without Science Bob. Terry Hall will be here in about 15 minutes or so to join us. So we are in roll call on our YouTube side right now. Kaz, how you doing? Thanks for coming on in. And up next, we have, well, let's see here. Let's see. We're just scrolling. Moon at Noon. Nice to see you. And Digger Dog, thank you for joining us tonight. All right, boys and girls, it's that time of the night. I'm going to ask you to throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the really happening news. We're together, my friends. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Caribou Con. Come on up to British Columbia, September 18th through 20th. Get your tickets at cariboucon.com. Come see Grant Cameron, myself, and Merle, and many more, speaking about the real paranormal plot. We have a great show tonight. We have a Science Bob with Science Bob and Friends. Science Bob taking the night off. In a little bit, we will be joined by Terry Hall, who joins us usually for the weird news of the week, but he's going to join us early to come on in and talk about some UFOs. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will join us for a spooky story, and Terry and I will continue with the weird news of the week because I know you love that segment as well. Let's just get right into it. You know, I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks now, maybe a couple months, okay, somewhere between 2 weeks and 2 months. I think I'm starting to have UFO fatigue. I really am thinking that I am starting to have UFO fatigue. And I think I know the reason why. And if you're in our chat rooms, I want to get your opinion on this. Ever since this became a real governmental topic where they are starting to take this down a political road, a cover-up road, all sorts of different roads that when I started in ufology a number of years ago now, this show's 11 years old. But when I started learning about this subject 11 years ago, it was about experiencers. It was about wondering what the government knew, because at that time, nobody was talking. It was about what people had experienced with alien contact. I think of Travis Walton. I think of the late Calvin Parker. I think of my friend Samantha Mowat. I even think of my own experiences when it comes to this. And what I'm thinking here is, as soon as the government started getting involved, I knew this subject was going to bore me at some point. As soon as it started becoming all nuts and bolts We got the 3 videos in 2017, the Go Fast, the Gimbal, and the Tic Tac. And it really showed not much. But I can tell you this, it has seemed over the last number of years to take the fun out of ufology. The fun that I loved about ufology over all this time was the stories that people would tell. Talk about alien encounters, going for a ride in the forest, because maybe you're out camping and all of a sudden your vehicle is hit by that beam of light. Next thing you know, it's the next morning. You have no idea why you're not at your campsite and you don't even know where you are. Those kind of stories are really, really what it's about. It was about people feeling important, telling their encounters that seem so impossible to many of us that unless you experienced it for yourself, it seemed like it was just a tall tale of someone who just wanted some attention. The tinfoil hat conspiracy club kind of running through the gamut with what they believe. The aliens are here. They're going to eat us. Didn't you see Independence Day? Didn't you see Fire in the Sky? And that's really what it was about. And then, as soon as the To the Stars Academy came out, the New York Times article came out, Lou Elizondo broke away and he started doing things on his own with Chris Mellon. And all we heard about was UFO go to UAP. Aliens going to NHI, non-human intelligence. Everything was a threat. Everything was dangerous. We don't know what these things are. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know anything. It's all about the propulsion systems. It's all about 0-point energy. How do these things turn? And little did we know that the majority of things we were looking at were actually man-made objects. So when I look at this entire story, and then you go online, and I'm not sure if people in radio land have actually taken a dip in the cesspool that we call X and UFO X especially. It is about division and a lot of hatred, a lot of anger out there. People got a lot of anger issues on there. And it's hard not to get caught up because everybody thinks their opinion is the right opinion. But it reminds me of the days when paranormal television was the hot thing to watch, the hot thing to do. Everybody, like when I started Spaced Out Radio, everybody had this, how can we put it? They had this test pilot that they were going to be putting out on Paranormal. They were going to get picked up. They had networks talking to them, right? And it was all about science in the paranormal. And then the more they started realizing, and probably led by us, griping about it, that there is no science for 99% of the paranormal teams out there. Just because you use gears and gadgets and blinky lights does not mean that you are conducting anything scientific. Well, the paranormal side really didn't like that. They really didn't. They got called out on their own needs, their own egos. And I think that's part of the shift that we saw with paranormal being so popular from 2010 on, especially, that all of a sudden it just kind of died off. Remember, you could not turn on a cabled network without watching some sort of paranormal television. And it was all there every night. And I loved it. I'll be honest with you, I loved it. But it was the same locations, looking for the same ghosts, just different people investigating. And you know what really bugged me about the paranormal television shows is, do you remember when you would tune in and they would always have that background noise playing in the background, some sort of like, It sounded like a synthesizer or something like that. All right. And you'd hear the people on camera. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I didn't hear a thing because your synthesizer music was playing in the background. Who remembered that? Drove me nuts. It's actually what turned me off of the paranormal. But everybody had a pilot that they were pushing. And then all of a sudden, 2017 arrives, and it becomes the world of UFOs in our field of the paranormal and supernatural. Cryptids have taken over a solid second place. Ghosts and everything in between, they're down to number 3. They're in the bronze medal position. And getting back to the UFO side of things, I see the UFO world kind of imploding on itself, much like the paranormal world did. Filled with drama, filled with unlogical thoughts or illogical thoughts. And a lot of people who are either drinking the Kool-Aid or a lot of people who are dumping the Kool-Aid out and said, this isn't what I signed up for. Whistleblowers being told they're whistleblowers, but a whistleblower really doesn't answer to their NDAs or ask the government permission to speak about what they could speak about. We've seen it all in ufology recently. And now I find myself, as much as I love covering the topic, and we're going to continue to cover the UFO topic, I find myself in UFO fatigue. Pardon me. I'm going to correct that. I am not in UFO fatigue. I am in UAP fatigue. For those of you who are new, wondering what the hell UAP is, it is unidentified anomalous phenomena. It is literally the definition of everything that is not UFO. If you see a garbage bag flying through the sky because the wind has caught it, that's a UAP. If you see a flock of seagulls and not the band flying through the sky, that is UAP. If you see an airplane flying 50 miles away and all you can see is the sheen from the metal on it from the sun, that is a UAP. What is not a UAP is a UFO, because we can't define what that is. And what I'm saying here, and I want to know in our chat room, and I will post some comments here, and I'll read them to our radio listeners. If you ever want to come listen in to this show and participate in our chat room, especially on YouTube, just go to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell. We'd love to say hello to you. I got literally the nicest chat room in the world. You know why? Because we don't allow politics to be talked about unless it's UFOs. It's amazing. When you pull the politics out of a chat room and you like go hard on that. Remember when our parents used to be stern and have rules and would say, you can't do that. Why? Because I said so? That is our chat room, except in a very fun way. And it allows people to actually think rather than politicize. And I got a group of moderators in there that are absolutely fantastic, who play by the rules, no politics. So if you want to get away from the political arguments, come to our chat room one night. Just join us. youtube.com/spaced out radio. Yes, I am in UAP dysphoria. I've got the UAP hangover. I've got everything to do with this because I think that the subject has been hijacked from the experiencer. I think it's been hijacked by many, many others who are using it for their own personal reasons rather than trying to figure out where are these little gray dudes with the big black eyes coming from. They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about 90-degree turns, G-forces that must be being pulled, speeds that are hitting thousands of miles per hour. That's what they want to talk about. What I want to talk about is about the experiencers. Okay. Now, we're kind of a blend between, we're kind of a news show on this great topics. We do interviews with people who are going to talk about what their research has said or what they've experienced. We're going to continue that. We're not going to break away from that. That's what we do here. Okay. But what we are going to do is I just want people to know that this subject and the the UAP people, they need an enema. They need an enema bad because this subject's gone in the toilet with all of the hiding and the secrets and the conniving. And that's just the government side. Never mind the people. And look, for every 1,000 people, there's always that one bad apple. So it's not everybody. We're not trying to group everybody in. But the UAP fatigue is real. Many people are suffering from it. They're not believing the Congress people who coincidentally held a press conference on Capitol Hill saying, dang, burn it. And we'll get to this a little bit later in the show. So I want to play you some audio from this. But they're like, dang, burn it. Tim Burchett. We want them UFOs. Where are they hiding? Where are we going with this topic? We've seen lots of things behind the scenes, but you, the public, we can't tell you what we've seen, but we can tell you to trust us. Isn't that the most fateful words a politician could say? You got to trust us. We've gone from these incredible stories that people tell heartfelt to the trust me, bro attitude that if you knew what I knew, you would be absolutely in awe. But I can't tell you what I know because I can't say anything. It was done in a skiff. I was told in a private meeting. The NDAs don't allow me for my top secret access, but trust me, bro. And the worst part about it is, as cool as it is that there are politicians like Anna Paulina Luna, like Tim Burchett, like Eric Burleson, Jared Moskowitz, and many others who are literally fighting tooth and nail to try and get whatever they can out about the UFO subject, it still comes down to trust me, bro tactics. Now, look, I'm saying this as a believer. I am a believer in the phenomena. Okay. I am a believer in what we do. I'm a believer in people who sit there and tell me, Dave, I got to tell you something. I found these scars on my body that were not there. I did not fall out of bed. I was not intoxicated last night. No, I wasn't high. Okay. No, it wasn't my cat. I don't own a cat. My dog sleeps out on the couch, not in my bedroom. But I got these scratch marks, and I don't know how they made it there. So I find it very, very interesting that this is happening. Okay? I find it very interesting that there are people out there that are so believing in the government. What's the old word adage? If a politician opens their mouth, they're lying. Why are we believing them on UFOs then? We don't believe them on the basic stuff. Where are our taxpayer dollars going? We don't believe politicians when they say, oh, no, I never took a little hand out there to help this company. No, I wouldn't do that. No. We don't believe them. The majority of us believe one way or another every politician is a crook these days, and they got the media behind them pulling the strings to literally help control some sort of narrative that none of us really understand. But yet, when it comes to UFOs, they're going to tell us the truth. They're going to tell us the truth. Well, believe you me, the minute we start believing the politicians on this segment of UFO talk or UAP talk, whatever side of the ledger you fall on, that's why we will never get the truth about what they're really covering up. Am I excited about the new tranche that's going to come out? Am I excited about the 2 that did come out? Hell yes, I am. Because it's a start and you have to start somewhere. Okay? A road is usually gravel before it's paved. We haven't even got to the pavement yet. We're just laying the gravel down to create the road to disclosure or the road to confirmation. That's where we got to get. That's where we have to, as the public, say, what do we want from disclosure? I don't care about the technology. Is it cool? Absolutely it is. I want to know why me. Why did my happily boring life come to an end on December 13th, 2011? That put me on this ridiculous path that has become Spaced Out Radio for the last 11 years. I want to know why I've seen the things I've seen. I want to know why the aliens came, the UFOs showed up, and I started getting abducted. And I know many of you out there want to know the same thing. Why was it you? Why wasn't it your friend? Why wasn't it your other family members? Why was it you? Why were you chosen? Why now is the other question that nobody can answer. Terry Hall, who will be with us shortly, he literally asked Lou Elizondo this past weekend, why now? Lou's response, why not now? It's been covered up long enough. Not good enough. Not a good enough answer. This answer to a subject that is going to affect every human being on this planet, saying why not now? It's been covered up too long. That is not a good enough answer after a 70-plus year cover-up. If we go back and use Roswell as the start date, July 8th, 1947. And yet we still don't know what happened there. Why now is probably the most important question in ufology, and nobody wants to answer it. And as stupid as it sounds, the media who are covering this subject in the mainstream, it doesn't matter where they work, News Nation, Fox News, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, Newsmax, whoever it is, not one single reporter has asked the why now question. Isn't it kind of important? Shouldn't we know that after 70 years, all of a sudden they're going to open up the vault and say, hey, let's talk about these UFOs, but let's not call them UFOs. Let's make up a horrible acronym called UAP. And that's what we'll brand them as, because all those tinfoil hat wearing lowlifers out there, they sit there and they wear their tinfoil hats. And they believe that the green aliens are coming down and taking them. And one guy had his horse taken. The other one had his cattle mutilated. The other guy's missing his teeth. Oh, that's just from all the candy he ate as a kid. But this is where we are. This is where we are. And if you're expecting the phenomena to come out of all of this, we got to be remembering that there's a good chance we're going to be disappointed. It is very, very tough to cover this subject when even the main players, the faces of the franchise, don't even know which direction it's going in, let alone people on the outside listening in like you, who are looking to people like me trying to get answers for you, and our hands are tied. The answers are out there. But remember this, Marshall McLuhan, famed Canadian researcher and scientist, once said the medium is the message. And when you have people controlling the medium on this subject, they control the message. First half hour of Spaced Out Radio is complete. The second half hour coming on up. We're going to try and get some people in here so we could go over the UFO story, because it was raging on Capitol Hill about UFOs. We'll be right back. All right. We'll just wait. See how far Terry is away. Probably needs a link. Oh, I did send him one. Number one, are you coming in? Hi guys. I am way behind in the chat room. I'm not going to be able to catch up tonight. It's easier when I have a guest. If you have any questions, you can put them in capital letters. Joe, I know you had a question. I'm going to scroll back to try and find it. But guys, really, if you want your questions answered tonight will be a good time for that. And just do me the favor. Just put them in capital letters because I'm doing way too much at once here. And it's just going to make it easier for me to watch them in if they're in capital letters. I felt good to rant there for that first half hour. Holy cow, that's been a while. My hair looks horrible tonight. Give me a couple seconds here. Right, close that out. Hopefully we don't get pop-ups. All right. Hi, number one.
Hey, I'm here.
I know I can hear you.
Do I sound all right?
You sound perfect.
Ooh, that probably helped.
All right. Thank you, Moon at Moon, for the super chat. Greatly appreciate your love and support of this show.
So what's going on? Am I Science Bob tonight? Am I also Terry Hall? Where is everybody?
When I called Terry up like a couple minutes before showtime, he was at the grocery store. He said, I'll be home in like 20 to 30 minutes. So Terry will be here.
Awesome. I'm happy to help out. This will be fun.
It's going to be fun. Damn it, it's going to be fun.
I'm not set up. That's why you're not seeing my wonderful face. I'm out on the back porch guarding the cemetery.
The giant hamburger bun on top of your head in your photo.
You like that?
Man, that's an Arby's special right there.
It's a solo Leia.
There you go. I just
It
got
is 3 years old. I need a new picture. You're correct.
So do I. I need to get new photos done. I do.
I can't read the audience when I'm in the chat like this too. So, or in the show like this too. So sorry, space travelers.
That's okay. We're coming back in 15 seconds. We are into the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for joining us as we go down the UFO path, find out what's really going on. Nicole Sackage is going to join us here momentarily, but first, we want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Joining us now is ufologist, researcher, and someone who's an experiencer as well of the unknown. We have Nicole Sackage coming on in, where we're going to talk about the way UFOs is going. Nicole, do you have UAP dysphoria? Do you have UAP fatigue going on right now?
Do you mean concerning the latest dump of videos or disclosure?
No, just in
I'm
general.
calling it disclosure delusion. So
Well,
am I suffering from that right now? No.
I'm actually going to write that down. That's a good t-shirt. Disclosure. What'd you call it? Disclosure?
Disclosure delusion.
Oh, that's a good t-shirt. We're going to probably put that up on our website.
I like that. We don't have ugly swag, so
there's no ugly swag in our store. It really is true. There's nothing ugly there. But explain why you have disclosure delusion, or what I like to call UAP fatigue.
Well, I think it's been coming on for 9 years now. And this is like that reverbing effect from that. And yes, it's been a long fight, but the delusional side is that we're actually going to get what we experiencers think is confirmation or the phenomenon. Like, that is the delusion. The politics that are playing out right now, it's a delusion. Like, show me an actual path that this is going to take forward to that presidential announcement on a podium. Like, I cannot connect those dots. And if you are connecting those dots, I think you're suffering from disclosure delusion. No matter the hype, like, this is unprecedented, we've done this before, all the baby steps, yeah, sure, all of that, celebrate it, it's great. But all the hype surrounding it and the sides that are being taken and the money mongering that's going on and the other wheelhouses spinning off from disclosure, yeah, that's not the phenomenon. So I'm not suffering from disclosure delusions.
Many people are.
I know. I'm watching it.
And here's the big thing that I would say about this. And many people who are probably listening, brand new to this show, because we just started broadcasting in Kelowna, British Columbia on 1150 AM Talk Radio. And thank you so much for adding us to your lineup, guys. I really appreciate it. And, one of the big things that listeners may not know is that this is a subject that has really been diluted to the public. We're not allowed to talk about aliens. We're not allowed to talk about ET contact, even though some politicians are wanting to go down that road. But that conversation always seems to be shut down very quickly. It is all about the science of everything, about the technologies that they have. And look, that's cool. It doesn't really interest me, but you know what? It may interest other people. I get that. I can appreciate that. But on the flip side, Nicole, at some point, there's got to be an admittance. If you want to move towards disclosure, you have to go down every path at once. You just can't take one technology path or one cover-up path or one governmental path. You have to take all the subjects at hand.
I agree with that. And I think that's where this version of disclosure is falling short. And they're using politics in a very strange way right now. And that also is hard for me to connect these dots with, because, like you brought up, we're arguing three things right now, technically: the experiential side, the governmental side, and the nuts and bolts side. And this narrative that we're getting blended together is coming out in ways where politicians are saying things that are likening the phenomenon to biblical things. And so if the phenomenon is supposed to replace or be misinterpreted from a spiritual angle, well, that closes off our government's avenues for disclosing anything, because we're a secular nation. We separate our churches and spiritual beliefs from our politics, no matter what our politicians say or believe. Like, that's still how our country as a company operates. Other nations are different. England is different. They have the Church of England interwoven into their politics. They have a different avenue for disclosure in that realm, if they would choose to politically align themselves and their spiritual church behind that. So that's a different disclosure scenario. We're not talking about UK disclosing to the world, although we're also hearing that cry from politicians now as well, and the UFO community. Why aren't other countries dropping their disclosure bombs or just doing this? For whatever reasons, our governments are choosing to stick to the nuts and bolts side of, do we have pieces of something technological? Is something being reverse engineered? These tangible things that might be covered up in some way. Trying to, us in the experiencer world, trying to, connect the dots of, how do these beings communicate with us telepathically? The crafts seem to in certain circumstances as well. All these characteristics of the phenomenon that we know we experience, the government has not figured that out yet. Even through their sci-spy trials or whatever secret thing we think they had a project trying to figure out, spiritualism, that, like, just that in itself. Can you imagine a bunch of spiritualists trying to channel alien beings for a CIA program?
Let me ask you this. Where is the truth?
That's the ultimate question. That's why I do what I do for ufology or the phenomenon. It's that crossroads of this intersection where we're at right now and how to move that forward. And that's the way forward. Isn't just disclosure from the government. We've been doing it the whole time for 80 years.
So if we don't know the path to the truth, how are we ever supposed to be able to disclose what is going on and what the government knows. I mean, this just sounds ridiculous.
It does, but I think that's really where, and we've been saying it for years, we need more academics involved. We need more, universities or professors or scientists. We like throwing them in the mix. But this is where it's also a fine line. In experiencer world, we have a lot of people that were of faith or are no longer of faith, are atheist or agnostic. And we also have people that define themselves through a number of spiritual practices. And so within our community, all this gets mixed up. So if we're going to have the sciences involved, the social sciences get involved too. And that means psychology. But with all of this, especially if we're talking about aspects of spiritualism or faith practices or crossover contact modalities between all of this, then that's when we need to turn to people in philosophy and theology and get all of these perspectives in play. Because if we just cherry pick all of this in the ancient aliens way, which they do nicely because they always put that big question mark at the end, they're not saying it is this from this spiritual practice, but it could be. That's that element that you explore philosophically, but you can't do that by crapping all over that actual spiritual practice, whether it's a Christian tradition or a Jewish tradition with Kabbalah or Gnosticism or whatever little buzzword people like to put on it.
I think that's a good point. Now, for people who may not be familiar with you,
Yeah.
you are an experiencer. You are somebody who has gone through the role of ET contact. You've had UFO encounters. And my favorite story of yours, I'm going to ask you to bring it up because I want you to tell the audience as we have some time. Okay. This is one of the reasons why Nicole is so passionate about learning this subject because of what happened to her. I want you to tell the story about the rocks on your table.
I like that story too, but I mean, it was part of a journey, and I still don't know how to really explain it. And I think that's why it always bothers me when I still think about it. Because honestly, it was, what was that, 5 years ago now? And to me, it was a continuation of the experience I had when I was 15. And that was actually seeing something in the sky, physical, with other people. And so that was an experience that I chased for 25 years. And I was like, I got to see something else. This was, so unexplainable. With that first one, there was high strangeness, what I kind of perceive as missing time. The three of us that saw it all sort of experienced something else during and, of course, even after. And that necessarily wasn't the thing I was chasing at the time for all those years. I still wanted it to be some sort of actual thing in the sky or a secret government something. So yeah, during that time that you're talking about with the rocks, a little bit of background is I had been involved with this so long that I had a sort of Skywatcher group that we would get together on certain nights if we were all available. And our goal, honestly, was if we ever spotted one of these things, we would be able to continuously keep eyes on it throughout the area. And over time, that area grew from just my area to encompass several states around me. So it was actually a large group. So it was fun when this, hey, we've got something call came in, which was at that time to me, it was several counties away from me, several miles away. And so it was the whole excitement of get your gear, get out to a good spot, let's see what we have. I can't believe there's still other people like reporting this and seeing it along the way, and people outside of our Skywatcher group. That was what was kind of crazy, because we were all known to be these, UFO enthusiasts or Skywatchers or amateur astronomers, or, with that even comes people that are into, the jets and the airplanes and drones and all that stuff. So it was a fun group, but it was the people within our towns and our communities that were like, oh my God, are you seeing this too? They're all reporting it to us. We're going outside and catching this thing on camera. And also at this time, it was shortly into my adventures with Grant Cameron and exploring the ideas of CE5 and HEIS and contact modalities. And personally, I was trying to adopt some of these into my skywatching practices to see if anything worked. It's sort of like, sure, let's throw this on the wall, see what sticks. And one of my favorite things that I started doing was playing music that I thought was sort of inspired by the phenomenon or other people's contact with it and things like that. So here I am chasing this thing that's being spotted over a couple cities and towns across a couple counties. Several of us are getting it on camera, and I get to my spot and I can't find it. I'm like, where is it? This thing has to be coming from this direction. And I'm out there all around and I'm about to give up. This location I choose because it's in the middle of nowhere out in the country. It's also a rock quarry like pile for resurfacing roads and gravel and stuff. So you can climb up all the way to the top of this pile and also get a really good 360 view of all the flatland of Illinois. So I'm up there on this giant rock pile looking for the UFO. And I have my vehicle parked down below and it's blasting some Dave Matthews music. I've got 3 cameras set up on tripods, and I'm also holding one as well. And I can't find this thing. I still have people like filling me in like through my phone that it's in the air, they can see it, and I start to give up. And then I look, it's directly above me. And I don't know. I broke down. I laughed like a maniac. I cried a little bit. I pulled out another camera because I realized that one on my tripod had failed. I was trying to stand there and hold still to capture it. And it started moving. And it started moving to the beats of the music I was playing and doing this weird light show. And the people that were online with me were talking about, oh my God, I'm watching it change colors. Like, what is this thing doing? What is this? And yeah, it was just really strange. Sometimes it looked like an upside down hot air balloon, but like no basket, like that tear shape. And sometimes it looked almost translucent. And it definitely looked different on camera than what we were seeing with our naked eye. And so after the excitement of all of this, which only lasted about 5 minutes in all, that's all I got, like 4 minutes and something on film. And it just poof, it disappeared out of the sky. Nobody else tracked it. Nobody else talked about it popping back up anywhere. If it did, we didn't notice it. And I drove around for at least an hour, 2 hours after that, just thinking, is it going to come up? Where will it come up again? Can I try to get it? And it was dark by that time. So I returned back to my my homestead here, my she shed, and I'm unloading all the gear out of my car because I take stuff with me. And I always have my dog around. I didn't take him with me on this little skywatch adventure because it was daylight. I knew where I was going. Other people knew where I was going. So I left my dog. Well, I noticed when I returned home, he wasn't at the door. He wasn't like, gimme treats. What have you been up to? I had to go find him. And he was upstairs hiding under my bed. And there was also this giant, like, urine circle. Like, he was terrified and scared out of his mind. So then, I spend a few minutes trying to take care of my dog and make sure he's okay. I'm back in my dining room office weird desk area at this time, where I pretty much did all of my UFO stuff, sitting at my dining room table. And I bend down to take off one shoe at a time. And when I put my face close to the table, there's a pile of gravel right in front of my nose, like in my work area writing space. And that was my first apport phenomenon, is how I've come to define it. And yeah, I mean, it's very much like the exact same gravel pile I was standing on while I was watching that UFO and playing music and having my little heist moment, maybe. Or I don't know. I still think to this day that I was a lunatic playing music to a Chinese spy balloon or a Boy Scout balloon floating over. And I want to believe that scenario, but then I still can't account for my dog being terrified, that pile of rocks on my workspace in a locked house. And yeah, it was so weird. I had my police officer neighbor come over and look at my living room and dining room and the doors to my house to make sure it didn't look like anybody had entered my house, like stuff like that. So I don't know. I chalk that up as a true odd moment with the phenomenon, and I can't explain that.
If I can interrupt you here for a quick second, as we only got about 2 minutes to go before we go to break, and in the next hour, we're going to bring in Terry Hall to join us as well, and his beautiful mustache is all, it's almost prepped up. But the big thing about that, I remember you telling this story, because I was one of the first people you called after this happened. And the one thing that I remember you telling me is your dog Buster was so scared that he had whittled himself.
Right.
And he doesn't go pee in the house.
No.
He's a well-trained dog.
No, he's not. And he's not a fearful dog. Like, he is more of the, I'm going to bark at everything that even, scurries through the yard, or the people that come in my house. Like, I'm going to jump on you and want you to pet me, all that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I've never seen my dog scared like that before. And no, he's never been a go in the bathroom kind of dog. So yeah, that really bothered me. And he's never acted like that way since. I will say I do and have taken him on enough sky watches or, nighttime investigation sort of setups that I do trust his instincts. If he senses something that I can't see or hear, then I don't feel safe. I do use Buster like that. He's a good dog like that. And yeah, on one of my, I think I'm going to go try to see if these people are hearing Bigfoot calls adventures. That's when I think Buster either saw the Bigfoot, or I try to convince myself that it was a bobcat, and that scares me almost as more as Bigfoot. So I still left and ran. And Buster ran with me.
Well, animals are very, very instinctive that way.
I agree. And I love Buster. And he knows he would sacrifice himself for me. So
Right.
he's got to make it to the car with me, or he's getting left behind, or we're getting abducted by aliens together, or
Always
whatever. So
It's always aliens. Nicole Sackage is here. Terry Hall will join us at the start of hour number 2. This is Spaced Out Radio and UFO Talk. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, Nicole, and we'll bring Terry in after the video, okay?
I told you I could fill 30 minutes.
All right, well, if you got to go, you can go.
No, I don't. I just meant I talked the whole time. You're welcome.
Thank you. Love you.
I'll
Our merch is Bigfoot approved. We have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have hoodies, we have socks, we have hats, we have stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can buy Spaced Out Radio merch and look the part? Our merch ain't ugly, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Lurking within the forested region of the 108-mile ranch, where the worlds of the normal and paranormal collide. CaribouCon is waiting for you, bringing together a panel of renowned experts in the paranormal, cryptid research, and UFO phenomena fields. Get ready for a spine-tingling weekend in the heart of British Columbia. Enjoy fascinating discussions, presentations, tours of local haunted areas, and skywatching. Learn from investigators, authors, and enthusiasts who explore everything from ghost hunting techniques to sightings of Sasquatch and beyond. Whether you're a seasoned paranormal researcher or just love a good spooky story, this is your chance to connect with fellow enthusiasts in one of BC's most mysterious areas. Tickets are on sale now. Grab yours before they're gone. Visit cariboucon.com for details, tickets, and updates.
Are you ready to dive into the weird and wonderful world of cryptids, cartoons, and chaos? Meet Dirty Filth, Spaced Out Radio's resident cartoonist and master of the mysterious. Every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific, join him live on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel for Cryptid Cartoons with Dirty Filth, a hilarious hour where he sketches bizarre beasts, shares mind-bending stories, and battles his mischievous cats. Whether you're a UFO enthusiast, paranormal fan, or just love quirky art, Dirty Filth filters the universe through his unique lens, creating cartoons that capture the strange, dark, and supernatural. Follow Dirty Filth on X at Filth1 or Facebook at Dear Filth for more filthy fun. Find his link in the description below.
Spaced Out Radio wants to hear from you. We love our community, and your voice truly matters. Drop a comment after every show and let us know what you thought. Agree with our guests? Tell us why. Disagree? We want to hear that too. We read every single comment. Jump into the live chat during the broadcast and be part of the conversation in real time. Got a killer topic idea? Your suggestions help shape the show. And if you want to take it even further, join our Patreon for bonus content and direct feedback opportunities with Dave and the team. This is your show as much as it is ours. Whether you're a longtime listener or brand new, we want your thoughts, your questions, and your ideas. and let's keep building this incredible community together. Spaced Out Radio, where the conversation never ends. What are you waiting for? We're listening.
With 5 explorable Gold Rush-era buildings said to be home to spirits of a time forgotten, the 108-mile heritage site in the heart of BC's Caribou region offers a unique opportunity for thrill seekers and history buffs. For an evening of historical fun, step into our guided ghost tours, where spine-chilling stories of Gold Rush legends and unexplained encounters come alive. For those craving even more, inquire with us about conducting a hands-on paranormal investigation of your own. And if you're truly brave, book our haunted sleepovers. Spend the night at our B&B inside the McNeil House to truly experience this historical landmark and its ghostly secrets firsthand. For booking or inquiries, go to haunted108.com.
All right, we have Nicole. Let's bring in Terry Hall. Look at that gorgeous mustache. Nicole, how long can you stick around for?
As long as you want.
Terry, do you want to go eat? I can't hear you. Your microphone's down.
Yeah, I'll run over there. Give me a 20
We got this, Terry. You
go. Terry hasn't eaten dinner yet. Here we go, guys. Go eat, Terry.
Will do.
We are into the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in as we continue on with the UFO talk. Nicole Sackich is here. Terry Hall is going to join us in the next half hour. But first, we want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tardiloquent. Tardiloquent is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in Nicole Sackich. She is a UFO researcher. She is somebody who is very well tapped in to the UFO world. She's an experiencer as well. And if you heard the last half hour, you would have heard an amazing encounter that she had with a UFO. You could go back in our archives for free and actually check that out. Nicole, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Hey, anytime. I'm happy to fill in, even last minute.
I appreciate you. Appreciate you a lot. Now, we had a big press conference out on Capitol Hill where many of the politicians arrived. Journalist Leslie Keane was there. A good friend of yours, James Fox, who's a documentarian, was there. Many people really pushing for, the path towards disclosure, that we need to get a little bit more going on. And I want to play you some audio from Eric Burleson with this, and then I want to get your opinion on what actually went on. So let's just go to the audio right now, and you can tell me what you think after.
Thank you all for being here today. I want to first begin by thanking everyone that's here, and I want to thank my colleagues behind me, this task force. We could not do this without the incredible leadership of Representative Luna and my colleagues on the team. We also wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the brave men and women who have come forward as whistleblowers, who have plowed that soil. We wouldn't be here without these individuals. And we also wouldn't be here celebrating the victories that we have were it not for President Trump. We finally have a leader that the American people can trust to challenge institutions that have grown far too comfortable operating without accountability. For decades, the American people have been treated like children, told that are government secrets that they don't get to know. Don't ask, don't expect answers, just trust the process. Well, the American people are done with that answer, and I'm done with that answer. Over the last 3 years, we have made more progress on this issue than at any point in modern history. We've held hearings. We've reviewed Russian and Brazilian records, including a formal FBI inquiry into the 96 Varginha incident, where witnesses alleged the Brazilian military captured non-human entities and craft and buried the truth. Today, Aldo Rebelo, who was the Ministry of Defense at the time, came forward and admitted that this event was true. We've sent targeted inquiries into MIT Lincoln Laboratories, MITRE, and every government agency that's been connected to UAP. We've worked with lawmakers across 4 continents. We've sought answers on cases like Matthew Sullivan, a would-be whistleblower whose tragic death deserves far more scrutiny than it has received. We've obtained video evidence, including the MQ-9 footage of a UAP incident off the coast of Yemen, delivered to my office through what can only be described as a Tom Clancy-style dead drop. Someone felt that they had, now think about this, someone felt they had to secretly hand information to an elected official, a member of Congress. Why would anyone fear bringing information to Congress? They shouldn't. We are no longer asking hypothetical questions anymore. Congress is requesting specific records and videos. These agencies and contractors know that they exist, and we're going to get them released. We continue to receive credible claims of recovered craft and reverse engineering programs that may have operated for decades outside of any oversight. Those claims point to specific facilities, contractors, records, and people. Congress has a constitutional duty to follow them. And that duty does not vanish because someone stamped a document classified 30 years ago. It does not vanish because some bureaucrat says so. It does not vanish because a program has become so compartmentalized that even elected officials are expected to look the other way. The Constitution gave Congress oversight, authority for a reason. No elected bureaucrat has that authority. This information is not yours to keep. It belongs to the American people. They own it and they deserve the truth. The most important people in this story are the whistleblowers. David Grush, Admiral Gallaudet, Dylan Borland, Jeff Nusatelli, and the many others who haven't been named yet. Their careers were upended. Their families were torn apart. They endured an avalanche of stress, all because they believed this information belongs to you, the American people, and they attempted to and tried to get it to you. Some will say that they should have used more proper channels. To hell with the safe way. The safe way protects the system. These are people who simply wanted the American people to see what they know, and they deserve protection. They deserve our respect, and they deserve a second chance. And we are at a different time. This is the age of disclosure. Mr. President, I'm asking you directly, waive the non-disclosure agreements that still bind these patriots.
Let's get your thoughts on this, Nicole, because that is pretty powerful right there in what Eric Burleson was saying. But there's also a couple of comments that I think are very, very unique.
Oh, I have so many thoughts on every sentence that he says almost. So let's start with what jumps out for you, maybe, before I spend 20 minutes on just the end.
Well, I want to start off with whistleblowers.
Right.
Okay? We have experiencers, we have eyewitnesses. Whistleblowers, true whistleblowers, and look, I know I'm in the minority when I say this, but true whistleblowers don't have to get their words passed through a security agency. They don't have to, get permission to say who they could talk to, what they could say during that conversation. It doesn't sit in a skiff or behind the scenes. It comes out to the public. That's a whistleblower. And I think we've overblown the whistleblower comments on this. Your thoughts?
My thoughts probably align closer to yours because I do think the definition of whistleblower is being extended here to try and protect these people as such, but they they're not necessarily qualifying under that umbrella. So that is a minor battlefront that's happening in disclosure for disclosure is I mean, they're trying to change those whistleblower protections to include these witnesses or people that have come forward because they're not fitting that true definition of they were persecuted for this stuff, particularly why they left their jobs. You know, even Lou resigned. You know, was a little different situation. Um, Grush came forward in the way that he did. A few of the others, um, it's like they lost their jobs before they came out, and it's not necessarily directly because, but it might be because the information they had during their service or their time. So, you know, there's layers of that and who can get protected how, or if there was grievances in the past that they could still, you know, maybe sort out in some legal way or professional way, like you would with any job that you have. So that's what makes all of that a real gray area, whistleblowers for me. And that sort of goes back to the whole feeling that I have that military witnesses should not be treated as more valid than a citizen witness just because A, B, or C, you know, which is usually has to do with, you know, whether they could be considered a sane, rational person or not, or a conscious observer of something, or like they talk about the pilots, they're trained to observe, you know. Well, lots of people that are citizens are also trained to observe. So that sort of collapses those arguments for me, or the um, overuse that we're defining these people with, and that makes me think back to our other witnesses that have come forward through citizens disclosure, like even with Dr. Stephen Greer. I think of people like Jim Peniston and John Burroughs, and they marched over 50 people up on podiums. The lady from NASA that talked about photos being scrubbed, all of these people, that have come out over the last 30 years. So why not stand behind them also and try to get them certain protections, as just citizens? It doesn't have to be this whistleblower protection through a government angle, like, you know. So that's lurky political theater to me. And the outcries to Trump, I think are also signals of that. And I love that there's so many politicians that are putting their voice to this. But I also fall back. Burleson said that comment of, how did he put it? The status quo, protects the insiders, but it also does, how everybody acknowledges, it also protects that very real national security that we have and all these wonderful things that make our United States the United States. So I also notice in politics how there's also this crossover of what seems to be foreign policy sort of views in their ways of thinking. Or, I mean, it's great that they speak from a personal level of faith, and that carries over into their politics. But to me, that's all interpretive, even for the witnesses that they have in SCIFs, the scientists that study this stuff. If they're saying these things are ultra terrestrial, what does that mean to them? What are they putting a biblical equivalent on that? And those are all things that I don't think the government would, you know, our government in the United States, at least, they don't get to decide those things. Citizens get to decide what their faith is represented and how, and that's also collapses this line that we're seeing in our politics, or our UFO politics, I should say. So that makes me leery. Is that really the disclosure battlefront? I think, to throw it back to my new catchphrase, I think that's part of the disclosure delusion. So to me, it's not looking like we have very many legs to stand on anymore with this. So politically speaking, I think we can see a lot of angles still come out to play. But concerning Burleson and what he said, the Tom Clancy line, oh my God, like the way he described it and the terms he put it in, yes, that's completely nuts. Like that somebody would feel like they have to Tom Clancy like sneak information to him. But then that also, I'm just like, he lacks so much in actual UFO history, because that's exactly how certain things went down in the 1980s with Bill Moore, Jamie Chandray, Rick Doty, and Linda Moulton Howell and Stanton Friedman. They would send all their packets of information to people in government that they thought would be interested and try to see who they could kick up and become UFO friendly. They had their insiders on the inside. Bill Moore started calling him the aviary. And this is the same time that Doty allegedly floats out the notorious, infamous MJ-12 documents. And Linda Moulton Howell gets soaked into this theory as well. At the end of it, we get Dick D'Amato from the Senate intelligence community looking into all of these claims of crash retrievals, hybridization, everything. And it was Dick D'Amato that said, if these things are here, if these programs are buried, if they're this, if they're secret, if they're so secret, they're illegal, essentially. He couldn't find traces of these programs, is what I'm saying. He could not find evidence of any of these, but his final conclusion is still popping up today. But they've used it to say that since he couldn't find anything, it must be illegal, like he said. And now they believe they're showing evidence of that. So I give kudos to that. But they still have to pony up those goods. If Grush found evidence that Dick D'Amato couldn't, then why and how and what is that actual evidence? So Burleson is pointing to, we've submitted to MITRE or this or that, and they want the goods. Well, yeah, they definitely need the goods, and to get to the bottom of that, I just hope it's an answer that we will actually accept. Because what if it's not UFO crash retrieval parts and it is US tech and it does have a UFO cover story to it? So they admit to the cover up. Will we accept that answer or not? We didn't accept it when Arrow gave it to us, that the Air Force has been doing it to us, and we just ignored that. So that's an argument out of that Burleson, because I think this is straight out of a Tom Clancy novel, and I think Bill Moore and Jamie Chandray, pulled these moves before with Rick Doty, And I think we're seeing elements of that all through the current disclosure delusion.
Well,
So-
let's hear a little bit from David Grush on this topic here.
Good afternoon. I'm here today because my leadership on the disclosure issue is part of my continued service to the nation. I took an oath as an Air Force officer swearing allegiance to the principles and the framework of the U.S. Constitution. I took that oath seriously then, and I take that oath seriously now. And if this is one of my final duties of public service, I want it to be this: helping Congress and the President restore lawful accountability over activities and spending that should never been placed beyond constitutional oversights, and to be transparent with the American people. There are a myriad of issues across multiple cultural, religious, and institutional spectrums. The topics here that we're discussing today go beyond life in the universe. There are serious homeland security and airspace safety issues. There are relevant counterintelligence and technology protection issues that must be taken in consideration. For decades, unknown objects have freely operated in restricted airspace in large metropolitan areas and critical infrastructure, and the agencies responsible for securing the homeland cannot adequately defend against it. This is a serious national security issue.
There we go.
In my official duties,
serious national security issue. What's your thoughts on that, Nicole?
Well, that's what I mean. It's like I can't make up my mind to even know what my thoughts are. Is it a serious national security issue? Or is it, they keep back whispering that it's something biblical or spiritual or something else. So I don't know. This is all confusing to me, honestly.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, as we got about 3 minutes to go at the bottom of the hour here until we go to break. Do you think then that when we hear this, that it is drumming up support? Because that's basically what they did this press conference for, was to drum up support for the UFO topic, okay, to try and bring more accountability and pressure towards other government officials, agencies, etc., to try and build up more public power to try and force these agencies and government officials to disclose more, to give us what we want. Do you think that's going to work, or do you think that this was just showmanship?
Honestly, they laid down some very real, like, Mr. President, can you do this? So it will come down to if he decides to listen to them or not, which I think is strategic. He is an approachable president this way, unlike any others have ever been in the past. So that adds a bit of excitement to all of it. But we also did hear, like Burchett echoed the skiff talk, that he was still hearing the president is on a need to know. There are reasons for that. We may not like it, but there are going to be people that protect the executive branch and the executive office that way, because that is more than just Trump. So that's also gray area that I think is a little bit theatrical at this point in the UFO politics side of things. And it'll be interesting to see if these work. I like the idea of him giving an executive order to include certain whistleblower protections, or to bring out more of these company involvements, contractor involvements. If that's something, I think that could give us some cold, hard truths that maybe we need to hear. I agree with all of those things. If he will give an executive order for them to officially stop the cover-up or using aliens or UFOs as a cover-up, that would be even better. I mean, he may not be able to undo what's been done in the past, but if he can stop whether it's a counterintelligence lie to propagandize Russia or China or one of our adversaries, or it's just a cover to protect our own secret tech. Like, that's what would protect us in the future.
Nicole, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break at the bottom of the hour. When we return, Terry Hull is going to join us. He actually spent an evening with Lou Elizondo, the former head of the ATIP program. We'll find out next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear. Excuse me.
There was so much in that yesterday. It was only 32 minutes long. There was just so much.
Right.
You'll have to bring on Courtney. She was there. Our friend Courtney Marcassani.
Yes. Let's bring in Terry Hall, our friend Terry Hall. We'll wait for him to stop guzzling his Pepsi.
Yeah, he made it sound like he had a date night with Lou Elizondo.
He did have a date night with Lou Elizondo.
It was pretty interesting, Nicole.
Don't give us any details. Don't let it slip.
Someone else besides Lou there as well.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you were chaperoned.
Oh, it wasn't that. I tell you what, I'll spill it all when we come back.
By the way, I just found out about this before the show. Apparently, some writer from Playboy magazine did an article on Jeremy Corbell, and Corbell is just pissed right off.
Oh, really?
We can talk about that. There's a lot to unpack in that article.
I haven't read it yet.
Well, find it and throw it up. Drop a link so the audience can read it. It's on X.
I got the link pulled up right here.
Was it a positive interview or a negative interview?
No, it was.
It was his. Yeah, it was a perspective.
Oh, here it is. My weekend with a celebrity alien hunter. Is that the one, Nicole?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, you can tell us about your date with Lou first. We'll see how it stacks up.
3 minutes.
Well, it's gonna go pretty deep, and a lot of it's about what you guys were just talking about, to be honest.
Good.
Oh,
I might have to confess that I had a recent conversation with Lou Elizondo lately too.
Well, I know that it might seem like I've disappeared from the UFO thing, but my thing has always been research. I love the research stuff, and over the last few months, we've found out some things that have just blown my mind, and I haven't disclosed it to anyone yet. So I might even have to be dipping into that a little bit tonight. And I've got solid evidence for everything that I'm going to say. I can back everything up. It's all in records, but yeah.
2 minutes, guys.
Well, Terry, you know the best of us. I mean, I disappeared from X and people thought that I quit ufology. So I've thought that was funny for the last, I don't know, almost 2 years now. So
we had Project Starlight where we built the RV and we were doing all the field research and everything. And field research, don't get me wrong, it's fun. It's exhausting trying to run a team of 5 or 10 people out in the field all at once and keep everybody happy, but it's fun. But my place has always been in a book somewhere, exploring things. I've always been really good at that for some reason. And it's just the way that things have turned out with a few people that I know that tie into things that go back to the early days of ufology. And a few other things. I tell you what, I'll tell you about it here in just a minute. If I start on it now, Dave's going to take my head off later.
I literally will. I totally will.
That was a good teaser. I've been working on the experiential angle and crisis management and angles on that perspective and talking. I don't know. I've had some very interesting conversations with people who work at the Vatican. So, yeah, I've been busy.
You are touching on so many things. You've mentioned Linda, and oh my goodness. Yeah, I've got a lot of stuff that's going to tie a bunch of this stuff together.
Yeah.
And it's all been available for years.
Guys,
It's just nobody knew where to look.
15 seconds. And thank you to our lone super chatter of the night. We only got one. That's rare. Moon at Noon, thank you for the love. Thank you to everybody who's given us a thumbs up. We appreciate you. Here we go. We are into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to bring in Terry Hall for the Weird News of the Week, and from the Weird Desk, Nicole Sackage is sticking with us. Now, Terry, you had a very, very interesting and kind of a cool night on this past Sunday where you actually went and took in Lou Elizondo, the former head of the ATIP program, his public speaking engagement. What was that like?
This is it's called the persona non grata, and I thought that Lou was coming out to, like, say, hey, my book's out, and disclose what he can, and just have a pleasant evening with a group of people. But when the whole thing started out, it wasn't just Lou. It was Lou and a senior member of NASA. His name is Mark Gold. He has written the Artemis Accords, which started out with eight countries, now has 22. And he was also the head of the Artemis launch that just happened. So we had NASA and Lou on stage. And Lou started out the evening saying that right before he went on, he got a phone call. And so the evening got changed up. And the phone call consisted of a senior member of Congress calling him and saying that he had a golden opportunity to ask the public what their concerns about this whole disclosure thing. What's the public's concerns? Congress wanted to know. So he said, we're going to record this whole thing. And we're going to have people just come up on stage and ask us questions, the questions that you would want Congress. You would want, if you were sitting in front of Congress, what would you ask? Right? So I contacted you and a few other people that I know. Dave's question was, why now? Why are they disclosing this stuff right now? Is there a pressing issue that's going to come up that's going to just kind of throw us for a loop? I mean, what's the story? And Lou's answer to that was, why not? And that's a direct quote. Why not? He said, it's like having vegetables in a refrigerator, that the longer you leave them sit there, the more they rot. And it had gotten to the point now to where they need to clean the refrigerator out, according to Lou, and bring this forward. Now, Mark, my question to both of them was, how can citizen scientists, field researchers, and people that are in this field that have done years worth of work, and like Nicole said, this goes beyond military and law enforcement. This is us, the public. Like Dave, I have 20 acres of land in two different locations, 10 acres in both spots. And buddy, you know as well as I do, I know every knot and hill out there. If something unusual presents itself, I should know better about it than even if I called the sheriff out here. This is my land. I know my land, right? So what Mark said was NASA is starting a project just specifically for that, for citizen scientists to be able to submit their research, their methodologies, and whatever they'd like to, honestly. Now, here is a bonus to that. And I know that in this field for years, even up to now, if you were found out to be receiving government funding, that was not a plus in the positive checkbook, and at least as far as we've all known, right? And oh, you're a government guy now, you're a spook. So disinformation, you're a disinformation dude. Well, you send in your research, and if NASA finds a benefit to it, and they think that they would like to continue to fund you, that particular person's research, they're going to be able to set up funding now. So the door is starting to open for the public to be able to just take whatever you can off the shelf and use it in an unconventional way. Right? We're always talking about psionics night vision cameras. Well, those were originally built for boats. So you can get out on the lake in the middle of the night and not worry about running into a tree or a log out in the middle of the lake. They were originally built for boats. They worked fantastic for looking up. And when we told psionics what we were doing, they actually got a kick out of it. So Mark said that NASA has been well aware of events. And as a matter of fact, he even discussed the sighting by the Apollo 12 guys, by the Apollo 17 guys, and a few other anomalies on the moon, like the moon glow. And it's what it is it's on the horizon of the moon. It looks like the sun cresting, but it's not the sun. It's some form of energy that even all the way back to the original lander, the lunar lander, when it first went there, the one that they sent before they sent the astronauts. From the first time the lunar lander touched down, they said it's dust, but both Lou and Mark said there's no atmosphere to stir dust up. It's not like dust is going to just levitate off the ground and hang in the air. There's nothing to stir it up. So they're really questioning a lot of things, and they're opening a door for the public's research to come in. So it was really surprising, Dave. And quite a pleasant evening. And I got to say,
how long
Lou
did it last?
well, we were there from about 6 o'clock until they closed the theater down at 10. And then Lou and Mark both just, because it wasn't a very large group of people, and most of the people who attended that evening, this was another really surprising thing about this, were people, they were like astrophysicists and physics teachers. I mean, I had to my right hand and left hand side, there were two more scientists from NASA sitting right next to me. One of the ladies worked on the Mars something about a Mars project or something. I mean, super duper intelligent people. Very small gathering. I mean, the Aladdin Theater only sits about 40, and it wasn't full. So afterwards, instead of just climbing in their rides and taking off, Mark and Lou just hung out and talked to everybody. And I mean, I tell you what, they were very personable people, very personable guys. But it was very surprising. So that whole evening, and by the way, that is going to be available. Lou said that they're going to put it out and it's going to be free. But after that evening, the next morning, that whole evening was sitting in front of Congress. And there were some pretty outstanding questions asked that evening. Now, Nicole, you mentioned Linda Moulton Howe, And if you remember, she was the one who kept the hold of that bismuth magnesium piece of metal.
Yes, arch
And
part.
and for years, everybody has said that we can't make that here. We can't make that here. We found a direct contradiction to that. And it was made by a company that most people wouldn't even think of. It was made by Xerox.
The UFO story that Lou was talking about. Okay.
Mhm.
What was the reaction from people in there?
Which UFO story were you talking
Oh,
about?
just the entire talk, Terry.
The reaction was awesome. And like I said, he really didn't have a chance to really he didn't even mention his book the whole time for the whole evening. It was Q&A where they were bringing people up from the audience, sitting them right down in front of them and saying, ask whatever you want.
So you went to one of the persona non grata events.
Yeah, it was the
Oh,
persona
okay.
non grata event. But like I said, right before Lou went on stage, he said it was 20 minutes before he went on stage, he got a phone call, and it was a senior member of Congress, and he asked Lou to what Congress wanted to know is what the public's concerns and questions were about this whole disclosure thing. And so what they ended up doing was they recorded the entire event, and they just brought everyone. If you wanted to come up and ask a question, it was an open floor.
Right. That's
So
how those things usually go
yeah,
with Q&As.
and Lou didn't talk about his book, nothing. It wasn't anything to do with what I thought it was going to be about. It was just
Well, yeah, that's interesting for a book tour to not talk about your book.
yeah, he didn't talk
But
about his book. And
why were you so surprised that that's the NASA move to give them to give citizen researchers an avenue to explore the UFO stuff? Why did that surprise you?
because it was NASA.
But NASA
Yeah.
does that with almost everything, though. Like they involve citizen researchers in everything that, I mean, you can apply for grants as
Well,
part
what
of working
surprised me
groups
about the
and
evening was Mark Gold. He was talking about
right.
sightings that they had Apollo 12 and Apollo 17 and showing pictures and the whole 9 yards. I mean, NASA
I
is
get
just
that
ready to
too.
dump everything, but NASA, I mean,
But dump
Nicole, it's
what
never
though?
a straight answer. That's always been NASA. And for a citizen researcher, a citizen scientist to have a clear avenue to be able to share their information and methodologies is unprecedented. There's no other place you can do it
For UFOs, you
for
mean?
UFOs. Right.
Right. What there are, though, they're just in smaller groups. Like this is actually what MUFON does, and other
And
groups that make themselves into collectives. And so this does give them maybe a legitimate path to somebody credible like NASA. And that's very interesting. But that's also what I'm saying. NASA has done those sorts of things all the time. So it's interesting that NASA is supporting this as valid research. I like that aspect. But at the same time, this is also NASA saying NASA has always said a definition for what extraterrestrial life is. They're going to stick to that.
I think using credible and NASA when it comes to UFOs is an oxymoron. I will say that.
Well, and that's what I mean. So if they give our ufology a credible science path to prove aspects of this, that's great because it'll be NASA affiliated. But
he
at the
even had
same
an
time, they're
acronym
not
for it.
saying our kind of aliens are real.
No, he
And
even
they're
had
also involving themselves in space money, like with SpaceX, and like proving that they're not flying around up there because it's safe for
Right.
all these moon projects to start happening.
Terry,
So,
yes.
you wanted to jump in there.
Oh, it was just a comment. It was no big.
Do you think then, okay, I mean, here's where I don't like it's Mark Gold, correct? Mark Gold?
Yeah. And he, you know,
This is
he,
the
he
guy-
even had an acronym for what this project is going to be. I think it was ALS, if I'm not
But we
mistaken.
also
But
have
it's
to
a
look
whole
at
new program they're doing.
we also have to look at it that Mark Gold was a guy when he testified in front of Congress about UFOs beside Elizondo. This was a guy who came begging for money for NASA. He wasn't there to talk UFOs. He was in the denialism that NASA had, and all of a sudden, because these first two tranches release notes and footage from Apollo 11, 12, and 17, that all of a sudden, oh, look how good NASA is at disclosing. Where was that during the congressional hearing that he sat in when
Well,
he was
that's
begging?
what this sounds like. He sounds like he was wanting money for this, like specifically to fund NASA to, which they do in other ways. It's probably diverting funds from somebody else and saying, or other projects and saying, yeah, we do have money to throw around. Let's put this here.
Well, you know, you've been in this. I mean, we've all been in this long enough now to where we know that when we go to things like this, is a lot of the same baseless statements and it's a show. It's stagecraft.
Well, there's also a lot of aspects of NASA that maybe are misinterpreted within the UFO community, because we have had strong supporters like Edgar Mitchell and the other ones that have came forward, even with their testimony of their anomalous experiences and what they think, has happened in space.
Which honestly, I think was the majority of them. It's just, it wasn't the majority of them that were willing to come that far forward.
Right. But NASA was also like defining these things and also trying to explore them themselves. Like, that's where they even overlap with our sci-fi programs. Everybody sort of knows John Alexander in that aspect and all the connections he had with like Russell Targ and Uri Geller, and how he came from the Army and that background of the First Earth Battalion.
The whole Stanford group and all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Jim Channon went on, he was partners with John Alexander in exploring that for the Army. And Jim Channon went on to be sort of like a guru for all sorts of corporate industries. And he was in that NASA scaffolding of working with astronauts or people assisting astronauts and how they process and deal with these life-altering experiences and how to, XYZ. And that had an effect all throughout NASA, even into their programs today. I mean, he only passed away, I think, in 2017 or 16. So it was leading right up into this disclosure culture that we're in right now. And so, yeah, there's interesting aspects there, but we still get frustrated with what has been alleged against NASA. So if they do shift and start to treat our UFO scientific community as something valid that they will endorse, that is very promising. I'm not saying it's going to give us their, skeleton full of closet full of skeletons, but yeah, that's a good turn.
That was the feeling that I got, that they're actually going to open the door because they are taking this a little bit more seriously.
Right.
I mean,
And
Mark
they
was even
also
willing
might
to
not
stand there.
have any skeletons in their closet.
Mark was even willing to stand there with us, and there were a couple of people, myself included, to go, hey, why don't you take a look at this and tell me what you think it is? Videos of whatever they had. And like I said, it was a pretty interesting game. It wasn't what I expected at all.
Well, NASA is very public facing. They keep repeating that over and over again. They do share a lot of their footage and live cameras and what's going on up there. The things that they protect are the corporates that they're contracted with as well. Like, we think of that space station as being the International Space Station, but there are corporations doing science up there on that space station as well.
You know what, Nicole?
So,
This is something you probably know about because they were talking about with the Artemis project, how they put this inflatable,
right.
expandable once in the, I mean, they had just barely built it. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Bigelow Engineering, hasn't he's been making those things
These
for
all
a long
inflatables.
time?
That's the whole concept of Bigelow engineering, are these inflatable space habitats.
Well, the way that they presented it was like, no, we just invented this thing. And I was like, wait a minute, Bigelow's been doing that for years.
Well, lots of people have. Robert Bigelow is fairly good at it. I don't even think he was the best, but he has stuff up there.
He's got his own little, from what I understand, Bigelow's got his own little space station up there just for him if things go south. And it's one of his inflatable, expandable living rooms in space, I guess.
That's
And I
fun.
will say this, I was wearing the brand at the show. I had one of my
But
spaced out shirts on.
you say inflatables, though, and that's all part of like this emerging low Earth orbit economy and space tourism, because inflatables aren't just those things that are in space. They're also the things that are like the giant balloons that are taking people around that are pretty fun because you whip around the Earth.
I'm just
And
waiting to see one of the wacky inflatable arm guys.
yeah,
on one
well,
of the
they're
big
also inflatables are part of like the habitat structures that will be on Mars, like, or the moon. They talk about those things. So they're not just like these inflatable pods that, you know, mega millionaires can
Well, as
tootle
long as
around
I
in.
can slide in one, I'd be happy.
Well, you can go up in one of those balloons. It's like 50 grand to whip around the earth. Like,
No, I live right down the street from two different places. You can skydive like 5 minutes from my house, so I get enough time in the air.
this is different than that. Like, what's that thing that Bezos shoots people up in that,
Blue Origin.
that is that the thing that looks like the giant penis? But
Yeah,
I mean, he's got other concepts that are in the work that are like they're they're low Earth orbit. You still see that Earth crest.
Yeah, that's still putting a tin can on top of a bottle rocket that can explode. I'll wait until we can float up that far and not in a balloon.
Well, even like so like the lunar lander pods, they have inflatables that pop out of their sides, that protect that whole unit when they come down in the ocean, or hopefully not on land. Like, I think that's even still why they land in the ocean, but there's all sorts of things. There is a company, and it's not even well known, but I think they have like an affiliate citizen group contract with NASA, that they work with NASA. They're called Mars City, and they're all about these different concepts and habitats of, how we can live on these other planets. And they do real life like simulations. Like, we see NASA's version of, oh, we're out in the desert somewhere and we have this structure. Well, there are, multiple pop-up startups around this sort of habitat industry, and the science that it takes for people to live in space, or in a space station, or on another planet, or in transition to. And
there was a lady in the audience there that night that actually works on that Mars project thingy.
there's several Mars projects. So that's even what I'm meaning. Like, you look up the possible projects and then the citizen groups that are involved for whatever reason, and that's an avenue that is interesting. Like you said, somebody like you could apply to NASA and get funds for your research These people, whether it's an individual that's all into Mars, they could apply for certain grants, even through the National Science Foundation. So if NASA starts doing stuff like that, maybe the National Science Foundation will do stuff like that. And
we got to go to break here at the top of the hour. Terry Hall, Nicole Sackage here for the UFO Stories of the Week.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Is it too early to put my horns up?
A little bit too early. Sorry, Nicole, I had to cut you off. We had to go to break.
You always have to cut me off. I never have to hear sorry from you. So,
all right, we're going to play a video here. Be right back, guys.
Stop now! You're under arrest! Hands up! Don't move!
Don't get caught without your Spaced Out Radio merchandise. We have t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, socks, hats, stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can look the part? We don't have ugly merch, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Dirty filth. Dirty filth. Dirty filth.
Object is heading north 045 degrees. It's definitely not a plane. It seems to be tethered to something. Is that a banner tow? Caribou Con. Does anyone know what Caribou Con is?
Caribou Con, one of the BC Caribou region's best-kept secrets. Until now. Join our panel of renowned paranormal experts for a weekend of fun and intriguing presentations. Go to cariboucon.com to book or inquire now. Discover Spaced Out Radio on all your favorite platforms. We're live every single night with the best in UFOs, cryptids, paranormal, and the unexplained. And you can find us on all your favorite platforms. Head over to Instagram for behind the scenes and daily weirdness, TikTok for quick mind-bending clips, Facebook for community discussions, and X for real-time updates and hot takes. Wherever you scroll, Spaced Out Radio is there. So go search Spaced Out Radio on every platform, hit follow, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single episode. The weird is waiting. See you there.
The McNeil House is one of several buildings at the 108-mile heritage site said to be haunted by spirits of a time long forgotten. But would you stay the night? Along with guided ghost tours and paranormal investigations, Haunted 108 is offering a chance to spend the entire night inside the historic McNeil House by booking one of our B&B style sleepovers, where you can experience the hauntings firsthand, meet the resident ghost cat, and witness unusual activity. If you dare to turn history into a night you'll never forget, book your spot now at haunted108.com. Spots are limited. Will you be brave enough?
All right, we bring Terry in. We bring Nicole back in. Hello, people. Swamp Dweller will be about 7 minutes. 7 minutes on the dot. Then we'll rock and roll it.
I'm here.
It'll be good.
You know, every week we do the weekly world news, right?
Yeah.
Every week I could do just an entire hour on people in Florida.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
This one picture is awesome.
I can't disagree with you there, Terry. I mean, I hope to one day spend all my time in Florida instead of just like half a year. So.
Nice. Here we go. We are into the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for joining us as we have Terry Hall and Nicole Sackage here talking about all the latest and greatest UFO news going on around the United States and the world. But first, we want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tardiloquent. Tardiloquent is our password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I've been listening to narrated cryptid and mystery stories for about a year now. My favorite is your channel, as it's a great way to space out while I'm working. I've contemplated sharing a story for a while now, but have avoided for multiple reasons. One of them being the fact that it's frustrating to have people think your story could be false when you've experienced it firsthand. With that being said, I certainly don't believe all the stories I hear, which is where my frustration comes from. I know upon sharing the story there will be those that think it's fabricated, as I have thought this in the past as well. I assure you, the story that I'm about to share is entirely true and has not been exaggerated in any way. For what it's worth, I'm a biologist, and my ability to make an accurate observation is what pays my bills. Now for the story. It was about midnight, and my friend Jen and I were aimlessly driving around, trying to think of something to do. I recalled a conversation a friend and I had recently, where he mentioned that he had some hand-chiseled Freemason headstones in an old wooded graveyard about an hour outside of town. I proposed the idea of visiting the graveyard to photograph the headstones, as I'm a bit of a conspiracy buff, and figured the late-night adventure would solve our boredom. She immediately accepted the idea and seemed pretty excited. We set out towards the cemetery, with me explaining to her that the headstones I was told about were towards the back, and we'd have to walk a decent ways into the woods to find them. We jokingly talked about how we would need to be on guard for random psychopaths strolling around, as we pulled into the tiny town outside of the cemetery. Neither of us had been into the tiny town prior to this, or the cemetery itself, nor had we done any research on the location. If we had, I don't think we would have been willing to go. The town was smaller than a mile. It was completely dark and desolate, with no lights anywhere. It's not a ghost town, but it may as well have been at 1 a.m. We slowly drove through the town, in fear of waking someone and having our plans foiled. We made it through the town and to the front of the cemetery, parking in the gravel lot outside the front of the gates. I stepped out of the car and was greeted by the smell of pine trees. As I looked up to see them towering all around us, only slivers of the night sky could be seen amidst the treetops, allowing very little moonlight to pour through. As soon as Jen exited the vehicle, her demeanor had changed entirely. She went from excited with a childlike curiosity to nervous and reluctant. As we walked through the gates, I was overwhelmed with an intense feeling that almost made me black out. I've never felt anything like this before. What I could only describe as an overbearing, nostalgic feeling. It wasn't a feeling of fear, and at this point, I wasn't scared yet. I was more or so curious. I attempted to shrug it off, and we started our walk. The beginning of the cemetery contained children's graves. It makes you think, seeing a headstone that says September 1864 to October 1864. What a short life. We were talking about the children's graves when we saw a plaque, explaining that the cemetery we stood in and the town we had just driven through were the first in the state. It explained people were drawn to the area for gold mining, and that the cemetery had over 2,000 people buried in it, the majority of them in unmarked graves. With gold comes slavery, robbery, and murder. It was at this time I realized this wasn't a normal cemetery. The children had died of diseases. A large portion of the adults died fighting over precious metals, and the bodies of the slaves were being held against their will eternally in unmarked graves, thousands of miles from their homelands. So much suffering concentrated into one small spot. At this time, fear hadn't presented itself to me yet. I was still curious and wanted to push forward. Jen was ready to leave at any time, so it all boiled down to me getting the photographs of the headstones. We aimlessly walked through the woods using our phones to illuminate the headstones. Nature had reclaimed the area decades ago. Our lights were shining on headstones that were so overgrown with moss, lichen, and plant life that they were illegible. The entire cemetery was like something out of a Stephen King book. About 45 minutes of walking, Jen stopped suddenly and was asking if I had heard a noise off in the distance. I told her I had heard it, but it was a standard wildlife noise and to not be worried. At this point, she looked around and then locked arms with me and wouldn't let go. As we walked for a few more minutes, we came to a plot of family graves. We stopped to examine the inscriptions when all of a sudden, there came a cracking noise so loud that it shook my chest. It came from just a couple of feet behind us. We spun around us and started shining our lights around the area. We happened to be in a clearing, allowing us to see our surroundings without any hindrance. There was nothing. Before I could fully process what was happening, Jen and I were running back to the car. We made it back without seeing or hearing anything else, and we sped out of there, not caring if we woke anyone up or were pulled over. I immediately attempted to rationalize it by telling Jen a deer, moose, elk, or bear must have stepped on a large branch and broken it. This was feasible, but not only did we not see any animals, but there were no noises before or after, meaning an animal didn't approach and then run away. It went from dead silence to crackling, back to dead silence. I tried saying it was a decaying limb in one of the trees nearby, but nothing fell and the closest trees were yards away. Not to mention the sound came from ground level. It was as if a branch, the width of a grown man's leg, was snapped clean in half without any resistance, just feet behind me. It wasn't a slow or partial crack like you would hear when a tree is being cut down. It sounded like lightning in an IMAX movie theater. After some time had passed by and the adrenaline wore off, I realized I couldn't rationalize what had happened. It came from ground level, meaning it wasn't a decaying branch in a tree, and there were no sounds of commotion, meaning it wasn't an animal. I went home and did some research. It turns out people who live in that town refuse to go to that cemetery after dark. They claim that some sort of Sasquatch guards it. I understand why now. I never even got the pictures I was after, but I don't think I'm going to go if there's some sort of Sasquatch stalking around.
Thank you, Swampy, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every night right on his channel. So go check it on out. It's time for Terry once again.
Terry Hall's got a mustache, standing by the mold. Girl, that's like a question mark, got secrets to be told. When you folks the Bigfoot tracks, ghosts that won't behave. You go me to the headlines like a constant way. We're this of the week, it's strange and it's wild. All the answers of the enemy to the unexplained falls. With Terry Hall and Paul, who's a stack in the small. I'm spaced out radio, let the very stars touch it all.
All right, we're excited to have Terry Hall back along with Nicole Sackich as we were talking about the UFO story. And there's an interesting story that came out about one of the more prominent names in the UFO world, Jeremy Corbell. This was written by a writer for Playboy. Now, in this article, it literally gets into this author named Matthew Busby, who isn't a big believer that the United States government has UFOs, but says he's open-minded to the fact that aliens may be here, aliens may be out there somewhere. And then he ran into a contact in the desert, Jeremy Corbell. Now, a lot of people are saying that this guy was there just to rip into the UFO people, the people who were dressed up as aliens and all sorts of just blind faith believers. But it was interesting, his interactions with Corbell, that seemed almost like Corbell was taunting him. And on X, the crowd is not favoring Jeremy on this at all, Nicole.
Right. And okay, so I had the article sent to me by a few people, and I thought it was interesting because right out of the gate, I had a couple different perspectives. It was sticking up for Corbell, and the other one was not necessarily sticking up for Corbell, but still thought the Playboy piece was in bad form or out of line. And so, of course, then I had to go in and read it. And I'm like, what's this about? You know, two authors on it, by the way, but one chose to give their perspective of what it's like. And I know it's stunning to a certain degree that this is coming out of Playboy magazine, or Playboy, however you want to define Playboy right now. But they have always written articles from a cultural perspective, from interesting people, and the writers that write for them are known for that and are usually critics of some form, whether it's in pop culture or music or fashion or a lot of things. So for them to send somebody to Contact in the Desert to have this sort of immersive UFO who's who, and that kind of says a lot, they complemented Contact in the Desert and that avenue of UFO culture. They complemented it by comparing it to Coachella, which is known in music and the arts, and because of all the celebrities that now endorse it or show up to the huge Coachella event. But that whole event is about music and art culture and the up and coming people that set those trends. So Playboy writing on ufology is interesting, and the perspective he gave is harsh against Jeremy Corbell. But from an outsider's perspective, it's a very interesting criticism of it. And aside from the Corbell supporters that are just saying, oh my God, this is total crap, there are people, and I'm one of them, have been watching Jeremy Corbell lately, or if not all the time, lately, but more intensely lately. He seems even more off the rails, or I mean, he's always dynamic and he's this and he has excuses for why he is. So you take all of that into context. But when you shake this out, what's really scary is this person's impression of UFO culture is somebody who's really intense, like Jeremy Corbell, and also pointing to experimental drug culture at the same time, I think is a nice way to put it. He went to that event. He felt like there were certain things that were presented to him in a certain way. And I don't know, I think it was him or them, the two authors, being honest to what they experienced there. And it's facing a lot of harsh criticism. And I think maybe people should just do a status check on Jeremy Corbell as well. If you care about him, be like, yo, dude, are you really okay? This might be concerning.
Perry's perspective on this.
No, I just got to that paragraph that I believe that you're kind of talking about.
Right. And so, okay, I don't even mean that to sound bad. The experimental drug side. We in UFO culture kind of know, there are people that are experimenting with their personal journeys. And if they want to try these avenues of, I don't even like really saying them, some of them make me uncomfortable. They do come up. Grant and I, Grant wrote a lot about psilocybin. People talk about DMT. I know. Yeah. And that is risky. There's a certain counterculture element to that. And there's also a new age element to that. And there's also a very real life, some people shouldn't be experimenting with things loosely and not in a controlled environment or without a support system. And so little things like that are pretty scary when a culture icon like Playboy is saying it. So, or writing in that vein, however you want to look at that. So, I don't know. Is that a good view of the UFO community at large, or is that a slice of Contact in the Desert? Because it is this immersive, all-inclusive celebrity status, comparing it to Coachella, that's glamorous and entertaining and things like that. So I don't know. There was good and bad in that. It just depends on how you want to weigh it. Obviously, Jeremy Corbell's upset with it. So,
well, I do know someone else who went to Contact. Matter of fact, it's a friend of all of ours. It was Kiera and Mark. They went this year. And Kiera said that, Contact in the Desert is one of the places where researchers and enthusiasts come out there. They bring the best of the best of what they got to bring, because they know that everybody else is going to be doing the same thing. So for an outsider, because this guy seems to me like an outsider looking in, right?
Absolutely.
Boy, it would be a lot to take in, you know?
It would
And
be, but I think Terry, the article, the way it kind of paints Jeremy as a very blustery personality, very deadpanned, like going back to one of the first comments that Jeremy literally made about um to Matthew Busby, the reporter from Playboy. He basically asked if it's going to be a hit piece on him.
yeah, a disingenuous hit. But okay, take this for with a grain of salt, if you would. Let's say that your average guy on the street, like this fellow was, he gets hooked up with Jeremy Corbell at Contact in the Desert, where all the rest of these heavyweights and people like Chris Bledsoe and the rest of those guys. So you take John Doe and put him in the middle of some of the most heavyweight individuals in this industry, in this research, in the UFO whole deal, and you just drop
They're
this.
UFO celebrities. You
Yeah.
can call them that. They're
Okay,
UFO celebrities.
Thanks, Nicole. I've been trying to put a word. You're so good at this stuff. So,
Well, I
you
mean,
take John
some
Doe and
people
stick
take
him in-
that negatively, but they are our community's celebrities and entertainers. So
So you take John Doe and set him in front of somebody like Chris Bledsoe, and he says, you saw the wings. I told you about the wings, and just all this stuff. What is this poor man supposed to think? And then you put him in a room with somebody like weaponized Jeremy Corbell, who is just running at a 10+2 all the time. That's a lot to take in, man.
Well, here's a quote. And I'm gonna say this is I've never had an argumentative relationship with Jeremy Corbell. We haven't talked in a couple of years, but I've never had a bad interaction with him. That being said, the reporter says, and I'm going to quote this: I approach Corbell and inform him I am a journalist covering the event. Quote from Corbell: "Hey, credentials, MFer. Show me something," he barks, pointing in my face. I nervously show him my ID. Corbell takes a cursory glance and continues issuing orders for his exit to his entourage, which includes a security guard. I asked to come along for the ride, and to my surprise, Corbell says, "I'm in." But just the fact that I know that Jeremy doesn't have a filter, but at some point there is that, I'm going to use the word, and it's going to sound insulting, but I'm just going to say professionalism. Okay. Somebody like Corbell, you want him, even though he's a power player in the field, UFO celebrity, as Nicole calls him. Okay. At some point, not everybody's out to get you. Not everybody is out to write a hit piece. How about treating him like a human being?
Okay, so go all the way down, Dave, to the very last paragraph of the story, and stop and think about what Jeremy Corbell said about this being a disingenuous article.
well, that's what I can even compare. Like, okay, so this is Playboy. They announce themselves as journalists. They're professionally. They're covering this from a cultural standpoint because that's what Playboy writes on, culture. And so, what would the purpose of a hit piece even be? Because we hear that we hear that out of the camp. If somebody doesn't like an article from the Washington Post or the New York Times, or plug in who you want. If it's something they don't like, it's a hit piece. That was a hit piece because Klippenstein wrote it. It's a hit piece because Michael Shermer writes on it.
This is the last few sentences of the article. Whatever the truth, there was no shortage of people offering answers for an additional fee. Whether aliens are seeking contact with humans remains a mystery, but Contact in the Desert, the business of preparing for their arrival, is booming. So he wrote this whole article, and at the end, he had to get that dig in there that, yeah, you can find stuff out if you want to talk to these celebrities and give them,
Why is that a dig, though, when they're a cultural magazine
no
writing on
shortage
an
of people
entertainment
offering
forum?
answers for an
Another time, yeah.
additional fee.
Hold right there. We're going to go to break, the final break of the night. UFO talk. Terry Hall and his gorgeous mustache, Nicole Sackage and her gorgeous bun. We are here on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
Total change of topics here for a second. I'm not the biggest Rush fan, but I could tell you I've been like overdosing on Rush the last 2 days because of their reunion concert. And then, of course, Annika Nils filling in for, the late, great Neil Peart.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly.
Nailing it too, man.
Oh my God, she is amazing.
I've been a Rush fan.
Yeah, I was going to agree with that.
Man.
I've been a Rush fan, so
I went to their 30th. Matter of fact, my son was really young. I took him to the 30th anniversary tour down here. On stage, they had these great big, huge dryers, tumbling dryers, right? Going and going and going. And we couldn't figure out what they were for. Well, before the first encore, they opened the dryers up and they were T-shirts, and they were putting them in T-shirt cannons and blasting them out into the audience. It was really cool, man.
I was watching this video of Annika Nils where, I think everybody was holding their breath in anticipation with how would her drum solo go in Tom Sawyer.
And she killed it.
She fucking nailed it. Pardon my language, but she nailed it. And, right at the end, right before she finishes her last few beats, she literally gets this smile on her face because she can now feel the crowd erupting where the whole Rush patrons and fans literally, gave her an ovation where you could feel that she was like, they accepted me. I'm good enough.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Just watching that smile on her face, honestly, made me actually quite emotional. And I was so happy for her. So happy for her.
Neil was, without a doubt, one of the absolute greatest percussionists that ever lived. And then Alex and Getty, I mean, those three guys can make some noise, man.
Wow.
We're switching to music right now.
Michael Huntington making a rare appearance in the SOR chat room. I feel like I shouldn't even look.
Hey.
Michael Huntington's the kind of guy where, and I love him, and I say this with all in fun. Michael's the kind of guy you walk up to and hey, no eye contact. No eye contact. I'm afraid to look at the chat room right now.
I'm reading his comment right now, and I can't disagree with him. I think it's everything I was just saying over the last few minutes. And
Nicole,
he's also a Midwestern ufologist, so it might have something to do with that.
I went to a couple of UFO things, conferences, whatever you want to call them. And the one thing that I didn't care for them because it felt like there were the people that were on the outliers with their little booths and tables and things. They were just trying to make a buck off of people's heartfelt beliefs. And it rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, some are like that and some are not. And that's what I mean. Some have that entertainment culture built into that. That's one of these, beautiful divisions of ufology. That's if you like that flavor of ufology, that you probably have a subscription to Gaia. Like I have had a subscription to Gaia. I wanted to see what it was all about. If you look at it as an entertainment industry and what they're doing and how they're doing it professionally, and if they're being professionals at it and their behavior, then I'm all for that. But
I
be
can't
what you
say
are. Don't try to be an entertainer and a politician.
I
Like
can't say much
I don't
about
like that.
any of those things with it. A lot of things happen with Project Starlight that weren't on the towards the positives, and it had a lot to do with producers and directors and certain
Well, that's part of
networks.
our community too. They all want their story told. They want it told well. They want it, in a book. They want it in a short story. They want it on the radio. They want it on TV.
They want
That's also
on
us.
TV with the stagecraft and in the. I've never seen that before, and I mean, you could. There was one guy I talked to. He said his producer took him out, and he said there was a red ribbon tied up in a tree, and he said, "I want you to point at that and just, give me one of those. Wow, I've never seen that before." And when the show
guys,
aired,
we're coming
there
back in
was
5
something different
seconds
in the
here.
tree.
Coming back in 5 seconds here. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We continue on with the UFO chatter. Playboy article about Jeremy Corbell and much, much more. Nicole Sackage, Terry Hall with his incredible mustache are here tonight as we are literally talking about, contact in the desert. We have Jeremy Corbell speaking to a reporter, a journalist from the Playboy magazine, if it even is a magazine. I haven't seen a Playboy in a couple decades. I really haven't.
And you probably never read an article from him though either.
I only got it for the articles.
I only got Playboy for the articles, Nicole.
That's
right.
It's amazing how you would just think such filth of us.
Hey, that's why writers went to Playboy. They knew they could culturally express their thoughts and have a lot of eyeballs on it at the same time. That's smart writers. So that's why I'll defend this. I mean, all knocks like this are intended to make ufology better. So if we can't take those lumps, then we suck. It's as simple as that to me. So if we can't bring outside people into our community and, make it acceptable to all of those types of people that are out there, then why would we expect them to push for disclosure from the podium or to give us the secret tech? Like, we have to be better at extending ourselves.
Here's the thing, though. Okay. I'm going to read a line here. Corbell is quoted, "I got ambushed by a Playboy reporter who hopefully doesn't do a BS disingenuous thing." And then he goes on to say, he tells his friends loudly as we walk down a kitchen corridor that has an unpleasant odor of coffee and oily food. I laugh anxiously. Corbell says, "I ain't joking. You're going to have a huge missed opportunity." And he even mentioned how Corbell's vibe was very volatile and abrasive and extremely earnest at the same time, and Corbell is somebody who is abrasive. He really is. Many people are rubbed the wrong way by that, unfortunately. But if that's what you're looking at, let me finish. If that's what you're looking at for ufology, is that the face of the franchise you want, even though that is who he is?
I think he is who he is, but even tracking him over the last 9 years, he has become even more so to a noticeably different degree. And so, even more now than before, what could be interpreted as positive or abrasive or excited or weaponizing all of us, like whatever it is that makes him so intense and likable or dislikable, is amplified now. And is that a good thing or a bad reflection on us? Is he the face of ufology? He wants to be. You know, there's a lot of people that want to be that face right now. So I think if people like these journalists are looking at Corbell that intensely, they're looking at the rest of these wannabe faces in that same light. So, and that's a repercussion of reaching the rest of the world with the messages that they're pushing. They want people to join us. So, you know, we should be representing all of ourselves to the best of our abilities right now. And that goes all the way down to the fighting on Twitter, which is why I'm not on there anymore. Like, it's just a gross playground. That's not my ufology. So I don't participate in that. I hope I've always represented myself in good ways across the community and outside of it when people I don't even know ask me about it. So, you know, I know researchers like me worry about their image, and I don't have an entourage of press people around me. So, why can't Jeremy Corbell get his shit together enough to behave like a normal person or a halfway normal person?
Well, apparently he's gotten
Especially to strangers. Sorry.
according, there's another line in there, and it happens. You can get really jaded in this stuff to where everybody that you meet, you just actually want to look at him and say what he said. He asked the guy, "Hope you're a good human being and you represent me fairly." And then we go back to yet another comment in our chat section here that said that he just didn't represent himself well. He didn't show the proper respect to a magazine like Playboy. So
to me, this goes back to Don Schmidt's beautiful red tie. And if you don't know what I mean by that, like, our community spent decades trying not to be associated as drunks or bums or drug users or crazy people or honkies or rednecks or uneducated or dumb. So there was a certain culture that UFO people needed to put on a suit and look nice and not look like a crazy person and treat people with respect and try to build these bridges. So when faces of our community that self-imposed themselves as faces of our community behave poorly like this, yeah, I think all of us should be saying, calm down, Jeremy. Maybe check yourself. Are you okay? Like, you know, we'll help you in any way you can, dude. He's got plenty of supporters, but seriously, I don't like being represented like that. So I'm going to say something about it.
Do you think it's that, Nicole? I mean, I'm older. I'm up in years, and we were raised proper respect, perspective, that kind of thing. Be polite, be nice, be inviting. But doesn't seem to be the culture for younger people anymore. They seem to be more brash and abrasive. And Jeremy
I think he
Corbell
feels like he's fighting this fight, like, with all of his person. And I think that's reflected a lot. And it is tough and it is hard and it is trying on your person, but you still have to be that best self you can be, is what I'm saying. So, you know, whether it was Corbell or, I mean.
So you don't think it was cool that he grabbed the guy and he handed him the bag and said, "Stuff a bunch of those in your mouth so I can trust you then"?
Absolutely not. Like that. I mean, if we're going to have that conversation, that's going to last another hour and we're going overtime. Like when I was so appalled by that. Like,
So
that's
basically
dangerous.
what happened?
That's
let me explain to our audience so they know. Basically, what happened was Jeremy Corbell handed the reporter from the Playboy, Matthew Busby, basically some mushrooms, and said, "Let's basically drop this together, so that way I know you're not out to get me." That's the gist of it.
That's a situation we teach kids in school to avoid and run and tell adults about.
Yeah, there was a whole program about that when my son was in school and my daughter.
Exactly. Children know better than to do that sort of behavior.
I
So,
don't see why. I mean,
so let's blackmail Playboy journalists.
There you go. That's kind of that's how it rubbed me. It's like I've invited you to come along with me, but
You know who does stuff like that? Drug dealers when they're doing criminal stuff. Take this so I can trust you and know you're not a snitch. That's garbage behavior.
It was very tasteless. That it was.
Well, and honestly, it made me think of the rumors I've heard around what's been happening at skywatching events or their psionic gatherings. And that is scary to me too. So they got a bunch of people gathered to bring in UFOs and possibly capture them or collect all this data. And they're letting these psionic people induce themselves however they need. And I haven't heard one situation where they had a medical team or medics or support guided situations. But I did hear that somebody had a seizure and they had to call help for him. So,
wow.
Yeah, when that's the whisper part of our community where, you know, a lot of experiencers and people in support groups or organizations like Opus that try to handle situations responsibly. And then we see flash UFO celebrities coming in and new groups out of nowhere claiming they're the next big thing. And then you hear these wild spin out things like that. That makes all of us go, this is dangerous. What are they doing? MUFON knows better than this. You know, like, what is that? That's also not my UFO community or the groups that I'm involved with or the people within this culture of trying to figure out these avenues. Like, safety is very forward in that, and so is your mental health along the way and your physical health for sure.
The whole mechanism of that. I mean, throughout the whole interaction, from what they've described, was okay. So this is how it goes. The ufologist, and this was a guy from Rolling Stone magazine during the storm of Area 51, and to test the trustworthiness of the Rolling Stone reporter who reported on Corbell for weeks after the storm Area 51 in 2019, the ufologist stuffed some effing mushrooms in his mouth, and I was like, let's go, because I wanted to see if he was telling the truth or not. According to Corbell, he was doing this to make sure he could trust the guy. But as it turns out, when the actual article came out, Corbell said he tried to make me into a jester and it made me sad. So he was doing this trying to get the truth out of the gentleman, and it turned out that it had the exact opposite effect, apparently, because, you know, he tried to get it to where it was going to be good and he could trust the guy and just disclose whatever he wanted to. And as it turns out, when the article was published, it wasn't what he was thinking.
Here's the thing. I'm going to put my journalist hat on. for a second. You're with one of the most popular journalists. You're teamed up with one of the most popular journalists in the UFO world, in George Knapp, who works for KLAS Channel 8. And I realize they are two different people, two different avenues, big age gap. I get that. Okay. And I can appreciate that. But in the world of journalism, when you are telling somebody who is on the clock on the job to come do a hit with us, you're literally putting that guy's career in jeopardy.
It does help to cast shade, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, if I was on the job, let's say when I worked in sports radio, if I was on the job and all of a sudden, you know, when I'm covering the Canadian Football League, the BC Lions, still my team, favorite team. And all of a sudden, say one of the players came up to me and said, "Hey, you know, we're going to go take a hit, or, you know, hit the devil's lettuce or whatever after the game. Do you want to join us?" Well, no, I'm still on the clock. Number one, can't do that. You just can't do that. People could be fired for it. What, in order to test their cojones for a level of trust with somebody you don't do? I mean, you work with George Knapp. You know that there is a professionalism in journalism. I mean, Jeremy calls himself an investigative journalist now. Okay. You know, there is a professionalism in journalism where you're not going to make somebody do something that they don't want to do while they're on the clock. If they do, they're idiots. That's just the way it is. You think he would know better than to put somebody through hey, jump off this bridge with me. You know, remember that old saying that mom and dad used to say? If your friends jumped off a bridge, do you think you have to follow with them? We'd be like, what? What does that even mean? All I said was I wanted to go to the store to buy some candy.
That's what I even mean, like even tracking Jeremy's Corbell's behavior over time. It seems to intensify, and that he is making more and more of these social faux pas mistakes or semi-professional mistakes. And that's hard to swallow when there are certain expectations, when you're putting yourself in the position he's putting himself in. So
well, apparently the whole mushroom thing he did to this Playboy reporter as well. The gentleman said, "I wonder if Corbell is subtly inviting me to trip with him or threatening me with a mouthful of psychedelic fungi." So it didn't come off well with either one of these gentlemen.
Yeah, I don't know.
In the reporting of it, it really turns, it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth, Nicole. It really does. And like you said, that's not the kind of person that I mean, if they said, "Take me to your leader," it wouldn't be Jeremy Corbell.
Well, I don't know if people are confusing UFO counterculture and experimental drug counterculture of like the 60s and 70s, or the plant medicine holistic aspects of experiencer or trauma crisis management. Like there's a lot of overlap that the experiencer community may or may not utilize. And that also overlaps with the researchers of high strangeness and all of that. So I believe these authors are of a younger generation, you know, and counterculture does mean something differently to them. They have been raised, you know, a little differently than just say no, dare to keep your kids off drugs. And they've also been brought up in a better mental health and wellness aspect of exploring themselves and these things in healthy ways. And so this mixed community of ufology needs to do these things better as well, instead of just putting them all under an umbrella of these things help, or these things make you talk to aliens, or these things open your third eye, or all these really loose labels that can ultimately be dangerous situations, I guess, is the bottom line. So, yes, all of that over the years, off and on, has had those among the community that try to stick to having some morals and ethics involved with their pursuits. So when we see it lacking in other ways, that's also where our mixed bag community is good. Like places like MUFON, we hear them argue, oh, there's the woo half, and we just want to do the tech half or the data half. We hear that in SCU. But this is our battlefield of making these things understandable to each other and the rest of the world. So, this is a harsh criticism.
And what a lot of people don't understand about this is there are certain aspects of this that can actually be dangerous. And I mean, sometimes just going to a place like the Uinta Basin, you can bring home things that affect you long term, and not just you, people around you too.
Oh, I get that. There's a lot of not common sense happening, even down to the basics of like Lee going out in his adventures and always telling his mom where he's going, or you go out and do your research a certain way, always go to a certain spot, use the whatever your pattern of safety is. One thing that, is always taken for granted. Okay, all these Bledsoe Skywatches, we're calling craft down, we're going to do this. What happens if one actually gets that close to you?
That's always been my point.
Where's the actual safety team? Like, I got so paranoid about this, I got myself a Geiger counter because I wanted to know if I was going to be exposed to radiation. Like, it's just weird little lines of thinking. But then, yeah, also, like, all of us talk about whipping out your cameras. Who's going to whip out 911 and call a hazmat team to make sure you can even encounter it safely? Like,
that's going to be me. I'm going to be the guy standing
note,
behind with the camera.
And on that note, guys, I want to say a big thank you, Terry Hall, for coming in early. Nicole Sackage, thank you for joining us with an inspiring and creative UFO conversation. And if you missed the show, you can always download our podcast for free on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on iTunes, or any major podcast network. As we wrap tonight up and say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we own the night.
Own the night. Yes, Nicole. Thank you for that. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. I can't believe I blew that, Nicole. Can't believe I blew it.
That's okay. I still did my part.
I'm so used to pointing at you on camera, and then I just blew it. Oh man.
I think I have a couple second delay with because I'm talking on a device, but I'm watching you on my TV. I noticed that when you gave me the wind it up, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like 3 seconds behind on him telling me to zip it.
Yeah, I can like on the I can open it up on my phone. You'll talk, and I'm on the phone. It's like 3 seconds later.
I have to bring up that while you were doing the outro and had my microphone paused, I just had an owl hoot up like right outside my window, like whoo-hoo.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not. I hear almost every night.
Out
It's
that
usually
window,
more than one.
out that window right there, there's a pear tree, and there's an owl sitting in it right now.
My cats are looking, so
Yeah, my dog's sitting here looking out the window, looking at the owl.
my owl is in a pine tree sitting in a cemetery right outside my window. So do you want to keep adding on to this, or what else?
No, this place isn't a cemetery yet, but now you can inter family members on your own property in Oregon, and if you do so, then my kids don't have to pay property taxes on the property later. So, and my next door neighbor builds caskets for a living. So
you just solved a problem, I think.
When we moved into this house, I told my kids, you guys are burying me out back because I am never moving again. So I guess it's actually going to, maybe it might even be a real thing. Who knows?
Guys, I got to run because we are going to go on to WABC in New York on the Red Apple Audio Network. And
Awesome.
Terry, I know you got to get up early in the morning too.
Actually, I don't. I'm off until.
Oh, well.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll tell you about it.
All
right.
This was fun, guys. Dave, thanks for letting me grandstand.
You are
No
so
problem.
awesome. I
will
love
edit
when you
your
come on
bullshit.
here.
Tomorrow night.
I'm sorry.
Tomorrow night on the show, ET contactee Allison Singh. She has an ET contactee group on Reddit. We're going to talk to her about the experiencer. It's going to be great. We'll see you all later, everyone.
Thanks for having me. Good night.
And we'll talk soon. See you later.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.